We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Jay Abbasi. Mindfulness is not just for yogis, he says. It's for everybody. Everybody needs to apply that mindfulness to everyday living, every aspect of your life. So how do you step into mindfulness? Well, there's a few other things you need to ignite as well. He says he supports individuals and organizations struggling with burnout, workplace stress through mindfulness training, which develops resilience and the ability to preserve through a fact-paced, ever-changing environment. Oh boy, is the environment ever changing right now? Right now, it's almost like everything is being thrown up in the air and we will see where it lands. And all we can do is prepare ourselves for whatever may fall. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we had a wonderful conversation the other day, so I know this is going to be fun for everyone. But you've had your own journey in getting there. You know, everybody has a redirect along the line that leads them to their epiphany, their calling, their meaningful purpose. And you didn't just kind of wake up one day, I'm going to be mindful today. You know, it was a journey that you took to get there. Were there any particular moments, or was it just, a particular slow journey that led you to it?
Yeah, so I agree with you that it's a journey, and there are experiences that we have that bring us from one place to another and to where we are today. And for me, it wasn't. There was definitely one experience that woke me up to seeking out other ways to manage emotions. And for me, it was the loss of my father. And back in 2014, he passed away suddenly. It was a heart attack, and you can't prepare for something like
Mm-hmm.
that. It just happened. And I remember thinking to myself, how can I manage through this? How do I stay strong for my family? How do I manage my own grief? And at the time, Sarah, I wasn't happy with other things. I wasn't loving the work that I did. My relationship at the time wasn't doing so well. And so I was seeking. I was
Mm-hmm.
seeking other things, and in my seeking, it brought me to mindfulness. And I understood the value in it, but it took me a while to really start the practice. And then when I started practicing, I started discovering a lot about myself, how I think, how I feel, how I act. And that discovery opened up so much more than just my ability to manage stress. What shocked me was I became a better communicator. I became a better leader. I became more effective. And it led me down this path of a career journey as well, to where I excelled. Whereas prior to that, I was effective at work, but I wasn't at a level that I am now, to where I
Yeah.
can say, I can lead people effectively. I can manage situations better, especially situations like this where there's a great deal of uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah, the best teachers are those that are willing to go through the process. And every single one of us gets a redirect along the line. You know, and sometimes it's a kiss on the brow, a little nudge, or, maybe the cosmic 2x4. We never know when it's going to come. But, one
Right.
of the things I find in life is we're always too busy being busy, that we actually don't pay attention to the signs that are there. And, one of the signs is our gut. Our gut knows when things are wrong. Our heart isn't in it. Our spirit isn't really igniting. And our mind is just confused. Yet we still think that we can intellectualize the answer rather than really feeling the answer from all the other beautiful dimensions that lie within us. Was it a realization for you that whatever you were doing wasn't making you happy? But was there a soul or heart ignition there that kind of, oh, hello, I haven't heard from you before?
There was a lot of not being okay with the status quo as it was. I
Mhm.
kept I kept telling myself there's something else. There's something else that I need to find personally. And
Mm.
it had a lot to do with, I think, purpose and mission.
Mhm.
You know, we all feel like we have our purpose, right? We all feel like we have a mission. And I think when we can let go of a lot of what we're thinking and a lot of the critical aspects of trying to
Mhm.
understand what to do next, and we just let go of that, we tend to find that it pulls us naturally from, along this path. And that's what started to happen. And I started to get little glimpses of it. And I'd love to tell you that it was a story full of sunshine and rainbows and everything was happily ever after. It wasn't like that at all. So
Kumbaya.
right. If I'm
Yes.
painting that picture, please forgive me. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that there was always that realization there after, I think when we go through something that's a hardship,
Mm.
it quiets us a bit, right? And we feel something there, and we have to pull something out of ourselves. And I think that was the start, was that, trauma, or that the grief that I experienced was the start. And then along the path, I diverted, I went on it, I went off it, I went on it, I went off it. But now what I think mindfulness has done for me is it helped me to get close, or get have the ability to listen to that inner voice that you were
Yes.
mentioning, that intuition,
Yes.
and not get caught up in the thoughts as much
Mm.
as I used to in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big one to say, feel your knowledge, don't always think it. Thoughts are programming, it's a hard drive, and it's data, right? And it's wonderful to have all this knowledge. But if the heart and the soul and the spirit aren't in the equation with their own intellect, how are we going to understand how to use this knowledge?
Mm,
Right? This is when we need to engage, and start feeling it more in a way where I really like the way I feel when I do this, right? Because you may be good at it, as you said. You were good at your last job. That wasn't the
mm-hmm.
problem. But was it good to you? And when you do something that you really love doing, as we talked about before we went on the air, we're both working like crazy, but we love it, so it's not so much work. That we've got to remember to pace ourselves. That's another topic altogether. But it is that passion and that conviction that you bring to something that makes you good at what you do. And that's really what's missing in a lot of people's lives, isn't it? Is that, well, I'm good at it and I've got these degrees and I make this amount of money, but why am I so miserable? Your heart isn't in it.
Right. Yeah. And I think whenever you're doing something where your heart's in it, you can always know, like
Mm-hmm.
you always know, because time kind of just stops really. It's not even in the equation anymore.
Yes.
Like you're just flowing, right? You're in this
Yeah.
kind of flow state when you love what you do. And I think there are like glimpses of that happen throughout our lives. And we kind of know that was it. That was like,
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. And what ends up happening, and this is the saddest part of the story, is that we let practicality get in the way of what we love. We tell ourselves that this isn't logical to go forward with this, that it's
Mm-hmm.
not practical right now for me to do it. Maybe I'll do it next year. Maybe I'll do it 3 years from now. And I definitely did this, and
Mm-hmm.
I know, and I did it so many years of my life where I say, well, one day I'll start a business, one day I'll really be able to teach the world something that I think will truly help humanity and to reduce suffering. I'll do that one day, but that day is not today.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes a great deal of recognition of that fear and awareness of that fear and the understanding that it's there, and then to be able to take action through the fear.
Yeah.
And once we start to do that, and it's just even small steps.
Yes.
Small
Yes.
steps are all that we need to do. Small steps forward, it will feel amazing. And then you don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do too much at once.
Don't do it like me. I'm a leaper. I get an overwhelming feeling for something and I don't understand why I need to do it, but I've just got to do it and I just go and do it, even though I don't know what I'm doing. That's me. I don't recommend it for everyone because sometimes you do need to pace yourself,
Yeah.
build that foundation brick by brick. And that's the tedious stuff. But at the same time, you're rooting. You're solidifying, you're building that strong foundation on which to grow from. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
build things from the top down, a root later. So I don't highly recommend it, but I get there eventually. It is easier to take a passion and go, I'm just going to go out and do something. I don't have to leave my job yet. I don't have to
Right.
change my life radically right now. I can go out and start dipping my feet in the water of what really excites me, What really ignites me? And then that's the state of allowing, isn't it? Allow yourself to go through the process, to go on the journey. Don't dictate, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, because that's the human world. You know,
Right.
the spiritual world is immerse yourself in the feeling, allow it to guide you forward, and it will lead you to where you need to be, knowing what you need to know when you need to know it.
Absolutely. So well said. I think when you go the other path of I'm going to do it like this and this is how it's going to go, you're setting yourself up for discouragement because
Yes.
you set an expectation as to how you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
And that is just you're going to suffer that way. And it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Instead, I have a friend actually I just spoke with over the weekend, and he wants to get into development of a training program, and he realized that he was doing that. He realized like I was putting too much on myself. So he's like, all I'm doing, 5 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes. I'm saying I have 5 minutes. I'm going to write some ideas down. If I go over the 5 minutes, great. If in 5 minutes I write nothing, that's okay. And then I'm going to leave it. And then every week you build a little bit. Then, 10 minutes and 15 minutes and so on, because he has a full-time job, as you suggested.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when we take that kind of approach, we give ourselves a little bit of grace and
Yeah.
patience,
Yes.
because we can't go from where we are now to Mount Everest, top of Mount Everest, in one jump, one leap. We
No.
can't, you know?
But we've got to remember, it's about the self-discovery.
Yeah.
You want more. You know that your heart is somewhere else, but you're still not quite sure how, what. You know your why, but where, how, how do I make this happen? Well, by discovering more about you
Mm.
and placing more value on you, placing that love and attention on you, there's a very difference between placing importance upon yourself and self-importance. One's ego
Yeah.
derived, the other one is oxygenating yourself. But when you understand that discovering who you are, why you are, what you're capable of doing, how strong and courageous you really are, and allowing yourself to take that journey without the manual, without conditions. That self-discovery, and for everybody that I've ever interviewed, including myself, is like, oh my God, I didn't know I was this strong. I didn't know I was this courageous. I didn't know I had these abilities. I didn't know I could do that, because we're conditioned to sell ourselves short.
Right.
Or unless it's got a big dollar sign by the side of it, it's of no value. And our true commerce today, isn't it, when people step into their heart center and they're out there doing things that are igniting, joy, laughter, love, meaningful purpose in other people. Yes, we need a dollar sign next to it to keep ourselves humanly going, but it's not about the dollar sign, is it? It's about
Right.
the enrichment and the abundance that you plant the seeds of in other people.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing also is the reminder that the journey is what you really are after, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes this experience worthwhile. If we're, I use that example of Mount Everest, right? If all the idea is I'm going to get to Mount Everest, top of Mount Everest, and that's when I'm going to be happy, that's when I'm going to get all
Yeah.
the things that I want,
Yeah.
then what's the point of the journey? Because you're
Yeah.
going to get there and then you're going to be like, okay, I'm here, now what?
Yes.
But what you just said, I think, makes a ton of sense. If we could instead recognize that whatever it is that we're going after, whatever we're embarking on, the self-discovery aspect is part of the greater journey that you'll be on. And that's the good stuff. That's the
Yes.
meat and potatoes of it, right?
Yes.
Not just I got to this level of success or fame or whatever it is that you might think comes on the other side of it. And even those that have reached the top, right, those pinnacles,
Mm-hmm.
always say that it was the journey that made it worthwhile. What they learned, what they discovered, as you said, about themselves.
There's so many that I know that I've interviewed that reached the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then they discovered, okay, I am working 80 hours a week. I have the big house I never have time to be in. I've got the fast car that gets me to and fro from work. My family is paying for this. And all I'm doing is becoming a slave to the job, for the money, for the position, the status quo. And there isn't anything about me that's happy about it. And
Mm.
for most people, it's been the cosmic 2x4 for them to, completely change, whether it was health or loss or something. And I think we mustn't get stuck on whatever it is that we lose, and understand what are we gaining from the loss.
Right.
because that's our first step forward.
Yeah, it's perspective. It's the
Mm,
perspective that you're giving on every experience. And if you have the perspective, or another way to kind of think of it is, what are you asking yourself in terms of the questions that you kind of bring, which is, what am I learning from this? What can be gained from this? How can I grow from this? Because sometimes the questions that we end up asking or bring us down to the negative path of, what am I losing?
mm,
What don't I have? Right.
mm.
And there's always something, whatever the experience is, you can find something that you can take from it and you can learn from and you can grow from, if you have the right perspective.
Right. The willingness.
The willingness, yeah, you
Yes.
have to be willing to do that. You have to have the effort, have the intention, maybe is the right
Yeah.
word, to see life as somewhat something where you can learn from it as you go, and that each experience is providing you something if you're willing to look for it, right?
Right. Right. Do you find the people that are most stressed, and wound up, and their lives are so chaotic, are the ones that are so busy trying to structure everything and have everything go in an order? You know, the thing about chaos, it is to find the order in the chaos. But from that order now comes more chaos, and that's always where our creativity is. And I find a lot of people get themselves so stressed out because it's not going the way I wanted it to.
Right.
No, it isn't, because it's the wrong way. And how do you get people to go, to take a breath and let it go?
Yeah, I think what I find, Sarah, is that it's normally for, I'll use the word traits, that are associated to the stress, and there's a judgment there, like they're
Mm-hmm.
judging the situation or even themselves. Things shouldn't be this way, right? Second would be, there's an attachment. And these all overlap, by the way. I'm
Yeah.
just using different
Yeah.
words that I think can trigger a easier way to associate to the stress. But the second one would be attachment, where there's an attachment to a result. It has to be this way. I'm attaching to a job that I have, or
Mm-hmm.
attaching to a role, right? And the third would be control. And you were really alluding to control. We try to control the things that we can't ever control. We don't have any control over it. Like, it's so fascinating to me about everything that's happening with COVID, because yes, for sure, this is spotlighting all the uncertainty that comes with it. We don't know what happens next, but here's the reality: there's never certainty
Mm-mm.
of anything.
Mm-mm.
So this is just highlighting it a bit, but we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. But the trying to control the uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one would be expectation.
Mm.
I expect things to go a certain way. And all of that, I think, are traits that come with, when people say they're stressed, they're burnt out, they're unhappy with their situation. And then you asked, how do you get around that? I'm going to go backwards. I think understanding is really what it takes. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by understanding is truly, really understanding why you're feeling stressed, not judging yourself like, why do I feel this way? It's more like, it's almost like changing the tone of that question. So there's,
Yeah.
why do I feel this way? And there's, why do I feel this way? Like, it's almost like a softer
Mm.
question to really have some introspection, but to get to the understanding, because we're all different, Sarah. I
Yes.
can't ever tell you or anybody else why you're stressed, but I can, because this is the second part, I can show you how to become more aware
Mm-hmm.
through the practice of mindfulness, to really get still and create the space that you need to then be able to understand.
Yeah.
Because only you can truly understand you. Only you can really help you. And I can give the tools for you to be able to get a better sense of your own programming and your own patterns.
It's helping them with an insight and with tools and skills to understand their own lesson.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And there's no like it's nothing that's incredibly fluffy
Right.
and
No.
esoteric. It's really practical.
And
Like
simple. But
it,
that's,
it
we don't want simple, do we, though? Our highfalutedness thinks, no, it must be extremely complex for it to be right. And yet, when you look at everything throughout history, nature has always won over. And it's just simple, right? It
mm,
has its seasons. We have our seasons. If we look at things from a more simple approach, and understand that if we come at it from a place of kindness, caring, self-love and love, that's the fundamental to everything that we do. And we're seeding and we're watering, but we have no control how it's going to grow. We can't tug on the roots, right? We
Right.
have to allow it to grow when it's going to grow, but nurture it and water it. And that goes with a desire that you have, an idea that you have, a blueprint that you have. It's not about, okay, roll up your sleeves now, we got to do this and we got to do that. Stress, stress, stress.
Right.
Yeah, go with the wind and allow, okay, how do I seed this? How do I water it? What is the growth time of this? Well, you may not know, but it means every single day you've got to nurture it. And
Right.
then you start seeing it grow.
Right.
Patience. That's another word a lot of people don't like, right?
Yeah, you're right. And I think everything you just spoke about was, a letting go.
Yeah.
Letting go. Stop. We were saying before about control and trying to grasp on things. Just let go. Allow.
Yeah.
Accept what is.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to put it in the most simplest terms, people suffer because they try, or because what they perceive is different than the reality. So what I mean is,
Mm-hmm.
I perceive that things should be different, but the reality is conflicting with what I perceive.
Yes.
And so we just need to see through that
Yeah.
and see that your perception of things and you feeling dissatisfied with the reality is what's causing your suffering. So all we really need to do, because you have this lens that you're seeing through, we just got to remove the lens so you can see things as they really are. And then from there, as you said, let go of trying to control it. And then once you remove that lens and you can really get in touch with reality, what you're going to find is that the universe just provides for you.
Yes.
It really is the truth. And it's not even like, I know we talked about this in our last time we spoke. It's not even like some sort of mystical out there idea. It's just the way it is. We don't know nature. We don't know everything about nature. We don't know everything about every universe or every galaxy out there. We don't know everything, but we know the result, because anyone who experiences this knows that once you really let go and allow things to be, things will manifest naturally. It's just the way it is. It's like gravity. It's just the way it is. But I don't know. I can't explain gravity to you.
Well,
I can't pull out a formula and write it out. I don't know.
and
Right.
there are those that can. And this is actually where a lot of scientists now are understanding that those that choose to live in a spiritual realm are living in a certain frequency, are living in a certain energy, and it can be measured. So it's not being treated so much by woohoo and people out in the twilight zone. It's an energy and a frequency that we choose to live on and vibrate at that frequency. And the higher that frequency, the more loving and caring it is. And, I'm a true colors coach, the 4 key personalities, and I like that you hit on those 4 perspectives. That very often, it's our human trait of the way we perceive things. And that very often can get in our way. Now, Spencer Johnson wrote a wonderful book of Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
And wonderful book. 2 mice and 2 men living over abundant cheese, and then one day the cheese is gone, and it's the different reactions of each one of them. One of them wants to sue somebody, give me back my cheese, I want it the way it was. The other one is spinning around, well, I'm not sure, but eventually moves over. And the 2 mice, Scary and Sniffy, are sniffing out and scurrying around for new opportunities. But I think a lot to do with understanding our own personality traits and how we look at things. As you said, judgment. There are some people that judgment just comes naturally, right? And it's self-judgment as well as judgment on others. In fact, I think those that really judge other people on a high level are people that judge themselves very deeply as well. So if we can actually understand our personality trait and how we look at something, we can actually open up and broaden all 4 key personalities and learn to interact in each one of them and not get stuck in one narrow-mindedness, because that's never going to allow us to branch out, is it?
No, you're absolutely right. It's fascinating that you brought up Who Moved My Cheese, because I just an hour ago was on a call with somebody talking about those 4 characters. I'm not kidding. That's so fascinating.
It's a brilliant little book. Simple. They've also got one for kids, by the way. Beautifully illustrated.
I heard. I might want to check that out. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I definitely have the scurry tendency.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
sure. My
Yeah.
girlfriend actually calls me Scurry, like as a nickname. It's true. It's really true. And so I know that of me. So what I tend to do is when I see the scurry start, is just an example of how I experience this, and what you just described is I notice it. I notice it. And I realize, hey, this is my tendency to go down this path, to go before I even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So how am I going to respond to this? And sometimes it's take my hands off the wheel for a second, like let go and
Yes.
do something else, like take a break before I jump into something.
Right.
Or
Remove
it's
yourself. Yes.
right, or it's to phone a friend. It's just to call somebody and say, hey, listen, like, especially somebody who has more of, like, let's say, the sniffy personality, to like walk me through it and make sure that I'm not diving into something without thinking,
Mm-hmm.
So but the only way we're ever going to get to any place where we can get that kind of self-discovery and self-improvement is by really flexing that muscle of
Yeah.
awareness,
Yeah.
and that requires practice.
That's the mindfulness, isn't it?
Yes.
We've got to understand, our minds are very much dictated by our other intellects, heart, soul, and spirit. But our minds, are full of information, also old patterning, old teachings, not just, your upbringing, but the DNA and also, ancestral past lifetimes. All of that is carried in your tissue. And very often we find ourselves doing something and say, I don't understand why I'm doing this. I don't like it. I don't think, why am I doing this? Why am I beating myself up? I believe
Mm-hmm.
in myself better than this. And it's look to your past pattern. And all it is a mindfulness to shift patterns. And that means a new dialogue with self.
Yeah, and I like to think of it as you're not learning anything. You're actually unlearning,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
That's really what it comes down to. I mean, if you can unlearn those patterns, right? And even that word might be perceived incorrectly, because you don't stop the pattern. That's not really possible. I mean, like, you can instead,
Override,
yeah,
override the
override.
pattern.
That's a better word. Yeah,
Mhm.
override. You see the pattern come up because, listen, I'd love to say that there's a way to go in and change your childhood conditioning, but I'd
Yes.
be lying. I'd be
Yeah.
lying. But there's definitely a way to notice it arise. And as you said, override and not let that childhood conditioning run your life anymore.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
possible.
And all the other things that have happened to you in life. Grudges is another thing, and the lack of forgiveness. And, the only person you're hurting is yourself. And, there are people in the world who hold so many grudges. And what it does is makes them more and more insecure. And I'm thinking of somebody rather in a powerful position right now. And what they do is what I call delete people, fire
Mm,
people all the time, because they always perceive everything as an attack.
right.
And if you are that sensitive, if you are responding in that way, it really is a time to take a sit back and go, I can't move forward in any form of self-discovery until I understand why I feel so wounded and so attacked all the time. Because that's really where the journey starts. You've got to let that go. You've got to understand why it's there. Right? It's going to go with you always, but you can have empowerment over it rather than it empowering you.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it's sad when you see that. It's so sad.
Yes,
It's so
yes,
sad because you know that this person has a great deal of insecurity, and that
yes.
that insecurity is driving their behavior. But what really upsets me is that clearly they don't see it,
No.
or they do and they're denying it, right? And either way, there's compassion that I would feel for that person, because they're just either unable to get the mirror in front of them to
Yeah.
look, like they just don't have the capacity or the tools, or whenever they look at that mirror they shove it away because they don't want to deal with
Or
it,
they just
right?
simply don't see it.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
or they
a
just,
true narcissist is an injured child.
right,
We've done some wonderful shows on narcissism and really eye-opening. It's an injured child that's been left behind, who've not felt loved, not felt heard,
right,
not felt worthy. And the thing is, children initially, all it is survival. And then you have to teach them from a very young age empathy and compassion. And
yep,
if you've got somebody treating you without any empathy or compassion or love or kindness, you're going to stay in that survival mode. Everything is about a defense.
right,
It's about, you making sure you are okay. And then it leads to no compassion, no empathy, no love for anyone else, only your survival. And a true narcissist is somebody that is unable to see what everybody else is seeing. And
Yeah.
that's because the damage has been done. And that is very sad, because you can't help a narcissist unless they're willing to help themselves. And so many aren't, because they don't understand what the problem is. The problem is yours.
Right. And what's even, what's additionally, what's sad about that is oftentimes that kind of person gets to a position of power and influence.
Yes,
And
unfortunately.
the reason is that they have an ability to incite fear in others.
Mm-hmm.
And fear is the strongest lever that you can pull.
It sells.
Right. It sells for sure. And it's, I like to think of it like, I imagine our ancestors, right? Like thousands and thousands of years ago, the person who stands on the rock tall and beats their chest and tells other people how bad they are or whatever, everyone gravitates because they think this person is going to protect me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what ends up happening, is at a very, very primal level. But what's really sad is that this person could, and it's not with intention, right? They
No,
think they're doing right.
you're right.
They think they're in the right.
That's
Could
their
be
perspective.
right. They could be really hurting and injuring other
Yes.
people without even knowing that they're doing it.
No. And a lot, you see it all the time, of people who have grown up with abuse ending up abusing their own loved ones. And again, it's that pattern. It's so instilled in them that when anything gets to stress, they don't know how to handle it. And
Right.
it comes out in an abusive way, because there's not been any release or new skill learned there. And you've got many a successful business person who realizes that, I've bullied my way to the top.
Right.
And it's like, I don't like who I am doing this. This is time for me to reset, to review, to renew, to reset, and look at the tools where I can step into a different realm. Now, that's a conscious person who realizes that that path has not served anybody. But again, it comes down to that willingness that I keep going back to, that free will of understanding that your life isn't working. Don't beat yourself up for what has happened. You're now in power to make the changes. That mindfulness that will ignite the heart, soul, and spiritfulness, and with the right skills and tools, which you put in your backpack. Right? You're not walking that journey for them. You're preparing them for their own journey.
Right.
Right? And you're there for when they fall and need to get back up. You're there in the encouragement to help them walk it. But we've got to a society where we think somebody else should do it for us. And this lifetime, it's your journey, baby.
Yeah.
You've got to walk it, whether you land on your ass a dozen times, just get back up. Listen to the people that have gone before you. They have got the tools that you can use along the way, but so that you can not just reach your destination. There's going to be many destinations in your life, but so you can step into your own abundance of life.
Absolutely. That's why I'm so fascinated, or I'm so passionate about the development of people's awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And look, if it's mindfulness, great. If there's another way, great. But the end game
Yes.
is to get awareness. That's it.
Yes.
And through awareness, there's understanding.
Yeah.
And an insight. And anyone who gains this will find a life that is so worthwhile,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to get through any challenge. I really believe that.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I see so much suffering. I've worked in corporate America. I've seen people burn themselves out. I've seen people so stressed. I've seen people not be able to enjoy their families because of their inability to have that kind of awareness and understanding and relate better to how they're feeling and see through what's causing them harm and potentially, without intention, causing other people harm.
Right. Because there's a ripple effect to everything in life. Right. And that redirect that we get from whichever way we get it, it's an opportunity to put things right, to put things in a new vibration, in a new direction, and allow yourself to discover who you are and what you're really here to do. And that willingness to just say, okay, I'm going to let it go. And again, let's look at the children's stories. Let it go. There's so many of them, Inside Out and a few other wonderful shows. And I always say, reading books to your children, yes, they're getting it from one perspective, but boy, is it a good reminder for us. It's a good
Yes.
way for us to turn in and go, you know what? That message was for me.
Yeah, recently I had my daughter learn how to ride a bike without training wheels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I took her training wheels off, and she's starting to ride, and I noticed that it's not her mechanics that's the problem. It's not her ability to pedal. It's her fear.
Yes.
It's her fear. It's her fear. And I'm just observing this. And of course, I give her the encouragement. But at some point, I realized I was like, I just have to let her go
Mm-hmm.
and just go through it, and face that discomfort. And it was only then that of course, she cried, right? Of course, she
Right.
fell a few times,
Mm-hmm.
but then she got through it, and now she loves to ride her bike.
Yeah.
It's
And
like it's
confidence.
in confidence. And
Yes.
so with us, it's no different. We have,
Right.
and that's to your point. Like, I sometimes learn a valuable lesson from what I
Mm-hmm.
observed with my daughter, and it was a reminder for me that when I have fear or discomfort or those challenges, I can see this as an opportunity to gain something, to learn something, because on the other side of that fear, there could be something wonderful there.
Yeah. But what is fear? It's a lack of knowing. And we want to know everything before we step out. No, life is about stepping out. And the curlies on the back of your head, that kind of fear. There's a grizzly bear behind you, or don't walk in front of the bus. Those are logical fears. But if you
Right,
get a fear kind of just like the butterflies in your stomach, oh, I don't know about this. That's just because you're unsure, because it's unknown. But
right,
how are you ever going to know it unless you're willing to discover it?
right. Absolutely. Yeah, fear is simply the unknown, is not
Yeah,
knowing. It's very straightforward.
yeah.
And it's a component of every single fear that we ever could have, outside of the one, like you said, of the tiger trying to, chew your head off or something. Because that's a good fear. You should keep that one.
Dinosaurs, yes.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some logical fears that are there that are very warranted, and they keep you alive. But I think we have had for so long the establishments pulling our strings, and how do they keep you in control? Religion and establishments, it's all about control. And if they can keep you fearful, they can keep you in control. They don't want people to have free will or to step out on their own, because then they lose control. But we end up with a better society of it, because everybody's participating in that orchestra with their own instrument, playing it for the goodness of all those that are listening. And it's not just one or two people with an agenda. So if we want to break the system, if we want to redirect the system, it starts with us. You want world peace? Well, the peace starts with you. You want to empower people? Empower yourself. Take
Mm,
that journey, because that ripple effect, that wonderful frequency, that lovely vibration goes out to everyone else in an inspiration and an invitation.
absolutely. It's fascinating to think about it, because if, let's say, the establishment, or whatever term you want to use for those in power that are trying to control a situation, if we on the receiving end didn't allow our fear to dictate our behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then none of their tactics would be effective.
Amen.
And right. And then from there, it would end up having to change the establishment
Yes.
so they can operate more from a place of love rather than fear.
And that's where we are right now. This is, what COVID and this time and this whole redirect right now. About 3 years ago, I was given a sentence: the universe is here to shake us up, to wake us up, for us to step up and change it up. And, the planet right now, Mama Earth, is saying, look, we're fine without you. Look how we're thriving. Right?
Right.
This is a warning. Be careful. We might press the delete button next time, you know? And the reason why, the whole thing is taking longer, and, I just want it to be over and I want to get back to normal. No, you don't. None of us want to get back to what the norm was, because the norm didn't serve everyone. And
Right.
this is a fantastic time, a gift of time, a gift of reflection, of really looking at, do I want to go back out and live my life as the same old? Or is this the opportunity for me to really look in and look at what I do want and make those practices in a different way? And that's where you come in.
Yeah, Absolutely. Yes. I don't want things to go back to the way they were. It wasn't,
No.
yeah. I mean, and those that do want to are still really stuck in fear, right? I mean, that's the
Yes.
reason why they want to go back to the way things were. It's back to the idea of they want to control the situation. But if we can have the outlook of, if we could see opportunity,
Yeah.
right? We can see this as, we can be excited about what's coming, right?
Yes. 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 It's we've been given a canvas. What are we going to paint?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Paint
Absolutely.
what you would like to see, blueprint it, start seeding, start watering, start lifting. I think a lot of the time, which I'm sure you come across with your clients, people have forgotten how to play,
Yeah.
how to have fun. What's joy? Is that a girl's name?
Right. No, you're right. And there are people who I've encountered that have found that joy and contentment in this situation, and that's
Yeah,
beautiful. There
yeah.
are people who I just was on the phone with someone this morning, and she was like, I realize I don't need to go out to dinner anymore.
Mhm.
Like, I don't need that. I can have I could be happy and joyful with my son in the backyard, going out for a walk and making dinner, and that's enough. And it's beautiful when we can recognize what's most important
Yes,
in this kind of situation. Of course, you know, to be very honest with the situation, is there are others that are going through a very
yes,
difficult time, right? Like,
yes,
we
yes.
don't want to leave that out. There are
No,
people who are really going into dark places right
yeah,
now, which is very sad. My hope is that people such as yourself can help to shine a light onto the situation and give people a sense of hope,
yeah.
right?
But we've got to allow the grieving process. My landlady has just lost her brother who literally died in
Oh,
his sleep of a heart attack. She's lost 5 friends to COVID. That's
oh,
6 people in 6 weeks, right?
wow.
And a lot of people, well, it's a hoax. Tell that to the people who have lost someone. And one of the worst things is, it's never mind the losing someone, that's already horrific. But the fact that they couldn't be by their bedside, or they couldn't have a funeral, they couldn't have that closure. And we're going to go through this kind of post-traumatic of people who need closure. And we
Yeah,
need to be there when we can physically get out there. We need to go and hug people and say, I'm there for you. Let's have an event, a mock funeral, to celebrate that person's life and to acknowledge it, because it's not just acknowledging the people that have crossed over, it's acknowledging the people that are behind, that have stayed
yes,
behind. And for all the people that have been on the forefront there, when this is all over and they've been living wound up, talk about stress, and they haven't got the luxury of walking away from it right now. When this is all over, we're going to see them collapse, and we need to be there for them to
yes,
help them get back up, because they've been there for us. So this isn't just about us, oh, we can get back out and go back out to a restaurant and do this and do that now. The economically, emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything has been shaken up. And really, this is when our humanity needs to step up. This is the
yes.
invitation.
Yeah, and every one of us can do it. Everyone.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you have to uh, make it become an activist or something and,
No.
and go out of your way. But one act of kindness, it,
Yes.
it goes a long way. One phone call, or when we can go out, like you said, setting up some sort of event. That's a beautiful idea. And I don't want to use the word responsibility. That's a little heavy, but we have opportunity to bring people together after
Yeah.
this,
I call it
rather than.
opportunity to be responsible.
Okay.
I
Yes.
still like to
It's
hold people responsible.
yes, because it's a choice whether you want to
Yes.
make it your
Yes.
responsibility,
Yes.
right? Yeah, I think
But the life
it's
is all about choice.
yeah,
Like the hem and harem who moved my cheese, the one that wants to sue somebody, give me back my cheese, where are my rights? That's your choice to look at it that way.
right.
And other people, for goodness sake, just look to the history. How much as a human race have we survived? How much thriving we do in the time of crisis? How much innovation and creativity comes together at the time of need? And where is our best humanity? And it's when it's in need. But why does it have to wait for a crisis to be so? Why can't we make it a daily occurrence in every aspect of our lives. And that comes back to the mindfulness. To be heartful has to start first in the mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell people about your program.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the program that I'm working to release in July, that's the July is when I'm looking to have this release and out there, will be to support anyone and everyone that is struggling with burnout, with stress, just finding it challenging to be motivated, especially now with
Yeah.
everything that's happening. And the course it's an online training course. So, it'll be video content, and then there'll be a few different options where you can understand what mindfulness really is, because I think there's a lot of confusion
Yes.
out there. So understanding what it really is, what does it really do for you? How this impacts you specifically, and then different practices that will give a variety, the variety of different practices that you can choose to apply for yourself. So I don't believe there's one way to
No.
practice
No.
mindfulness. I think there's many ways, and you are unique to you, is what I would
Yeah.
say to somebody. You have to figure out what's best. My job would be to share the options. Your job would be to find the one that works for you. And then,
Yes.
yeah, and then how do you actually apply it at work? And a third of our lives we spend at work. A third.
Yes.
And so a third of the time we're sleeping, by the way. So it's like,
Yes.
it's a lot
Only
of
leaves
time.
a third for living.
Right. Yes. So that's work is where we're living. Right. And
Yes.
so my intention behind the course is to have individuals be able to access it, as well as companies that are looking to infuse this into their organization and be able to offer a few different packages. So that way, there's different ways that you can choose to interact, whether it's all video conferencing or all video content, inclusive, or second option would be maybe with Zoom, and then another option to potentially even get some one-on-one support if you feel that would be the best way to support
Right.
it. Yeah.
We're looking at so many companies now. I think it was Twitter the other day that has said that after this crisis, anybody who wants to continue to work from home can. And, this has now opened up to so many businesses now that people can work at home within their own time. They're not having to commute a couple of hours,
Sure.
and they can work around their families, picking up kids and this and that this is going to become a new norm. And so for a lot of people, how do they step into this new norm and look at it still as being interactive and still, being productive? Because there's something about working in an office with your colleagues. Well, that's
Yeah.
not to say that you can't meet your colleagues on Friday night for a drink or still do things, have a Zoom call with them. If that again is what our new participation is, we have to look at new ways of doing things and
Right.
take whatever worked with the old and integrate it with the new and then see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's always, of course, the human connection in
Yes.
person that's valuable. I think
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah.
But we have, like we've been talking about this whole time, right? We have to accept the situation for
Yeah.
what it is and
Mm-hmm.
look for other opportunities to stay connected. And
Yeah.
I know and maybe you experienced the same thing, Sarah, since this has all happened, I've probably been on the phone
Mm.
and talking to people and been on Zooms more than any time in my life. And I've connected with some people I haven't talked to in years
Yeah.
because of this situation. And so in some ways, it's actually brought me closer together to people, not physically, but
Yes.
through the technology that we have,
Yeah.
which I think allows us to still have some connection
Yeah.
with human beings. And so, my course is really meant to try to do that as well in the best way possible, where we can't always be present with each other in person.
But it also means it can reach out to everyone and anyone,
Yes.
anywhere. That's the point. You can do it in your own time, in your own way. Nobody's measuring. Oh gosh, she's further ahead than me, I must be stupid. No, there's none of that. You're going to partake, digest, move on, and some people are going to gobble. That's the thing. That's another thing. Stop comparing yourself with someone else. There is only you. You are unique. It's about embracing who we are, not
Right.
comparing ourselves with everyone else, because we'll always let ourselves down that way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think, the competitive nature of things at times, like, the competition, it could be good if it's done in jest and playfully,
Yes.
That's fine. It depends on what you're fueling it with. If you're
Right.
fueling it with a desire to be better than other people and
Mm-hmm.
to put other people down and to get approval and to avoid rejection, that's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so like, the course that will be ready in July will allow for like a monthly subscription that's going to be very affordable,
Right.
that will allow people to just have access to this content. And look, my mission is really just to make people happier, help people be happier. And
Yeah.
we're at work so much. Like, why shouldn't we be happy at work? Why should we all be? It almost feels like it's crazy. It almost feels like it's assumed that you're stressed at work. Like, yeah,
Well, you're
everyone's
not being
stressed.
productive unless you're stressed.
Right. Like,
That's
is it like
codswallop.
it's a mark of doing it well. Like,
Right.
I'm
No.
stressed at work.
Yeah.
What? No,
Work hard. No, work smart.
Right. Yes. You shouldn't feel like when you go into work, you can't wait until it ends.
Right. Or go home and you haven't got any time for family or friends or life because you are just burnt out from the day.
Yeah.
Right?
And even in attempts to want to be present with your family, you can't, because your mind is still racing
Yeah.
about what you have to do or what happened that day or what you have to do next. That emotion is still inside of your body, and you haven't found a way to really release it and let it go. And
Yeah.
so the program helps with all of those things.
And that's something I had to learn because I'm not very structured. I'm very much an air person and, a little scary and sniffy. It's like, oh, I see it. Let's go and suss it out,
Right.
And I had to learn the structure and the building and be more methodical. But one of the things I had to learn is that not everything has to be done today. And, so often the day gets taken over by what the day is getting taken over with. Okay, then I go to my calendar and move that to the next day. If I can't get it done the next day, then the next day. It's prioritize. And,
Yes.
at 5:00, my computer is down, work is over. And that's something, if you are working from home, that doesn't mean you work 24/7. Keep your hours and learn to walk away. And if you don't get it done today, stop beating yourself up. Other things happened, and that's okay. And I think let's lighten up on ourselves a little bit, huh?
Yeah. And your words mean a great deal to me, because this has been a process that I'm going through quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And in homeschooling my 8-year-old
Yeah.
daughter, right?
Yes.
And trying to build a business at the same time.
Oh,
Right.
these balls in the air.
Right. Yeah. And just to say, hey, look, I'm going to do the best I can.
Yes.
And be okay with that. The best I
Yes.
can is more than enough. And accepting the fact that although I may have had a plan for what I'd like to do, that was like an aspiration, like I
Yeah.
aspired to do it.
Yeah.
If I didn't get to it all, that's okay. Give myself patience and grace.
But you've also got to understand that, it's like me, I have a blueprint for the place that I want to go, and I'm slowly, steadily, methodically getting there. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to leap forward here. And then circumstances happened, and as well as COVID happened. And all it was telling me is not now. It's not saying your idea isn't validated, because you feel it in the core. So if the core belief is there, you know that you're going to do it one day. You just have to wait for the synchronicities of energies to come together in the right time to make it happen. So don't look, I didn't achieve that, so therefore I must be a failure. Codswallop. What did you gain along the way?
Right.
Each day, what do you gain? And if we concentrated on the gain, then we will actually understand the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Right. It's looking at every step that we took along the path, not how far we are from the mountaintop and saying, I'm not there yet.
Right. Yeah. And, do you really need to climb to that mountaintop? Is that really where maybe you need to go down to a beautiful valley? Maybe you don't have lungs for the mountaintop,
Exactly.
You're not designed to be an Olympian, but you can be an achiever in a different direction,
Sure. Yeah. And just letting go of the result is what let go of the result and just allow the journey to go and enjoy every step along the way.
Right. So can people sign up for the course now?
Yes. So they would, you can go to jayabbasi.me. So JAYABBASI.me. And it's right there on the front of the page. Join the wait list. There's no obligation. There's nothing that is required outside of just putting your name and email address down. I will have, we will then reach out once the actual course is ready and we have more details. But for now, it's just, add your name to the wait list.
Registration. Yeah.
I register. I'll keep you posted. And then we'll stay in touch from there.
Right. And then obviously on your site, you'll be kind of putting in what the achievement, what the goal is and how you're going to be doing things. So then people can take that journey with you. And that means by
Yeah.
the time they actually do get to do it, they're more prepared for it. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So, one of the fun things I'm doing is like kind of giving behind the scenes
Mm.
looks
Yeah.
of what's happening and how we're progressing. And so, to your point, once I get closer to the actual release, I'll also share some of the modules for those that were on the wait
Yeah.
list so they can get an idea
Yeah.
before we actually get started
Start
with the
getting the
course.
mindset in the right direction.
Exactly right, Sarah.
Yeah. So you're also on LinkedIn?
Yes. So the best place to find me, well, there are many places, but the best place to find me is LinkedIn in terms of the engagement that I have. I
Mm-hmm.
love that platform. I
Mm-hmm.
find it to be an incredibly positive and encouraging place.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just go to just Jay Abbasi, just search for me on LinkedIn. Please, follow, connect, whatever your preference is. I would love to engage with anybody who's interested in learning more about this or just to stay in touch. I
Yeah.
love sharing ideas. I love sharing experiences on that platform. And I find that it's just a great place to connect with people.
Yeah. I mean, we've got to remember that you're looking for the answers. You're not going to find them unless you're interacting.
Right.
Take it out. Oh, social media. No, stop giving it a bad rap. There is an abundance of wisdom out there. Be prepared to follow them, to connect, to have a conversation. You
Yeah.
never know where it's going to go.
Right.
Hence,
And
an interview.
exactly. That's what led to this. Right. And Sarah, had it not been, I would say I was in that boat of what you just described as social
Mm-hmm.
media having this stigma. And
Yeah.
I told myself, what do you like? That's my perception. Right.
Yeah.
And I took the leap just as you have, and as you said, throughout your life you take the leap. And
Mm-hmm.
so I took the leap into social media through LinkedIn, and I can say it has been incredibly rewarding.
Right. And you've got to remember that all of these platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, those are my three, Facebook and LinkedIn, the ones where I truly interact, they follow an algorithm. So they're going to give you the algorithm of the people that you're interacting with. And that
Right.
just brings more people to you, the kind of people. And if you get one now and again that's trying to kind of pitch something, sell something, or is, a con artist, you just got to use your common sense, right?
Right.
Like you would in a networking event or somebody walking down the street, that's the whole thing.
Right.
Um, and if you're in tuned with self, then your antennas are up and you're projecting out the kind of aura and person you are and the kind of people you want to meet, and the universe will bring them to you. Right? But you've got
Absolutely
to
right.
participate.
Right. You have to put yourself out there a little
Yeah.
bit, and like you said, just stay true to you, operate with kindness, and be logical, like you said,
Yeah.
in the event that the one bad apple hits you.
Right. Don't throw
Just
out the
have that
whole
perspective.
barrel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't throw out the exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Everybody goes through life and has a bad experience over something, but somebody else had a wonderful experience. And who knows why you had the bad experience? What did you learn from it? Maybe it was how you managed it.
Right.
Could you have managed it better?
Exactly.
So everything is there for us to reflect on and not beat ourselves up about, but go, oh, okay. Next time I'll be more aware. I'll be more
Right.
mindful.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you, Jay. This has been wonderful. So it's jayabbasi.me and
Jay
Jay
Abbasi
Abbasi
got me.
and Jay Abbasi at LinkedIn. And most certainly, I think it's a good idea to sign up, even if you're not quite sure right now. You're not sure, is this the direction you want to go in? But sign up, because as you keep bringing about more and more information, it just may be something, I like what I see. I want to take this. And there is nothing wrong with us taking a journey of self-discovery, because we are awesome beings waiting to be discovered and let free to follow who we really are meant to be. And when we do, our light shines bright, just like yours does, Jay. So keep shining bright for us.
So kind of you. Thank you so much for all your kindness, for everything. Every conversation we've had to this point has been remarkable. You are a special person, Sarah. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
bless you. Thank you so much. Well, I only pick special people. It's that vibration thing,
Yeah.
that attunement. So, and every bit of knowledge is worth it. It's like a library out there when people are ready. When they're ready for it, the teacher is there, the coach is there, the guider is there, and you can't help anybody until they're ready to be helped. But here at Self-Discovery Media, we have people like you who are ready to help. And it's not one size that fits all.
Right.
Listen to the person that you feel is talking to you. And, that's the reason why these shows are an hour long. I want you to really feel the person and everything they're saying, because if you can connect with them, then you can connect with what they're doing. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Have a wonderful rest of COVID.
Yes, you as well. I think, there is, like we were saying before, there is opportunity, of
Yes.
course, and we have an opportunity right now to do that kind of self-discovery. So I hope everyone who's listening has found that opportunity to take some time to reflect. And in the time that we have left before things, open up, like find that time for yourself, and don't let go of it either. Stay,
No.
stay, stay reflective, continue to look at self, and continue to give yourself self-love and care and compassion.
Yeah. Who are you? Why are you? How awesome are you? What's your imprint in the world and what's your contribution? Right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you, Sarah.
And to everyone else out there, all right? If the world is in trouble, it's because we're in trouble. And so when we step up and face that understanding, a willingness to know, open up our minds, willingness to learn and step into our awesomeness, we become part of the solution. And boy, do we need solutioners right now. So take your journey. Don't be afraid. You really are going to discover just how awesome you really are. So until next time, bye-bye for now. We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.